You steal my spleen. Fine. I steal everything you own. By Geminycain. Chapter 12. GRRRLS. The sight he was met with when entering the cave was pretty much the one he expected. Bruce at the Bat computer and Damien at the training mats. Jason would be the only added surprise since he had been gone for a hot minute, but now sat to the side with a book. No one mentioned it, but Dick was glad Jason seemed better now. He just hoped whatever criminal fools Hood had decided to take his anger out on was okay. So, how did it go with Baby Bird yesterday? Dick came over to Bruce, who had yet again planted himself in front of the Bat computer. Bruce did not take to being benched very well, and instead of resting more so he could get better, he spent most of his time in the cave, which was not surprising knowing Bruce. Got any answers out of him? No. This was unexpected. Tim might be tight-lipped to a T, but he always gave a report when it was Bruce or Batman who asked. Dick waited for Bruce to elaborate, but unsurprisingly, he did not. No? He jabbed. Bruce made a grunt. Whatever troubled him during the dinner, he has gotten under control. He dismissed. I trust him to adjust to the changes he is going through on his terms. If Dick squeezed his eyes and brows harder together, they might switch places. So he did not answer where he went after the dinner, and you were okay with that? He questioned incredulously. Dick remembers one time he snuck out of the manor to hang out with some friends from school to go to a movie they were not old enough to watch. When he returned, Bruce and Alfred were waiting for him, and after making sure he was all right, Bruce asked him 1,000 questions about where he had been and with who. Dick had not been dismissed before every single question had been answered honestly. B, Bruce, Bubba, Beyonce, Batman. Did we attend the same family dinner? Did your not death suck the helicopter parent out of you? What is going on here? I mean, Dick looked over his shoulder at Jason before he leaned closer to B and spoke with a hushed voice. He picked a fight with Jason. Timmy doesn't do outbursts like that. And what was with the It is something none of us need to concern ourselves with. B spoke, surprisingly vigilant. Jim is fine now, and that is what matters. Yeah, of course, Dick answered, feeling taken aback by the unusual reaction. He pushed the feeling aside. So, are you telling me your research into Tim's time abroad is also going to stop now since it is no longer something we need to concern ourselves with? Dick questioned in a teasing tone. Bruce did not answer. It was all the answer Dick needed. I knew it. I did not get to ask him. I am checking up on his activity to keep our records intact. Whatever you say, B, Dick said with a well-meaning roll of his eyes. Found something? He asked with real curiosity. Where Tim had been was something on the back of Dick's mind ever since his baby brother had left. Yes, Bruce answered, looking thoughtful with his hands knitted together vertically in front of his mouth. All those things that need to be followed up on. Okay, I have time to help you if you want. What are the leads? Bruce made an acknowledging grunt. The first is a number Tim called after leaving the country. I managed to recover his contact information from before the phone he used was trashed. Bruce mumbled the explanation. I will follow up on that one. There was no room for discussion in his tone. The second is an employee at WE who took time off to find Tim in his travels. From what I understand, she found him. Really? Someone from WE? Who is it? Tamara Fox. The smile on Dick's face fell immediately as his eyes widened. No. Nope, not happening. Both Damien and Jason stopped what they were doing, one looking confused and the other entertained. Bruce creased his brow. Why not? Because I am not suicidal, that's why not. It is way too hard to get an appointment, and I am not risking my perfect non-electrified booty by talking to her alone without one. I think you might be overreacting. She is just a civilian. Oh, I am really not. Bruce massaged the crease between his brows with 2 fingers and sighed. Very well. Bring Jason with you, then. What? Why do I have to get involved in this shit? Jason shouted and got up from his seat. Please, Jaybird, I don't want to die so young. Do it for me. Dick begged with puppy dog eyes. Hard pass. Come on, please. What if something bad happened to Timmy and we don't know? Jason bit the side of his cheek, turning his head slightly so Dick would not notice his concern. Favorite hot dog stand is on the way, right? I will buy you one when we come back. Dick resorted to bribery. Please, fine, but only because of the hot dogs. Jason grumbled in response. Dick all but encapsulated him in an octopus hug. A very stark and daunting realization hit Tim. He was bored. Ew. The team was on a new mission. Tim sat in his office chair, spinning around lazily, and sighing every few seconds. Boredom. Now there was something he had not felt in years. He was always too busy to be bored. The last time he felt the strange emotion might have been when he was still a small kid growing up in Drake Manor. There had not been anyone home then either. His parents had sent him a camera as an apology for not making it to his 9th birthday. And just like that, Tim's boredom was gone, replaced with a hyperfixation that lasted him almost a decade. Now, Tim was bored again. His eyes wandered over his desk, landing on the wrapped gift he had made for Tam. A small smile traced his lips. What are you making, Tim? Han came to him and asked when Tim was hunched over a metal desk with magnifying goggles on and sparks flying from a small and precise welding torch. Welcoming gift for Tam, he mumbled before the sparks started flying again. Uh-huh, Khan answered, floating off the ground to get a better look over Tim's shoulder. It looks complicated. His feet touched the ground next to him. I understand the technical parts, but what is the rest of it? Tim waited a bit and found a good place to pause. He removed the magnifying goggles that made him look like a dork. Cute, Khan thought as Tim ruffled his hair and let the glasses rest around his neck. I thought since Tam is going to need emotional support against superheroes now, I might as well give her a taser that can do damage to them, he explained. So I have been studying some of the tomes in my newly acquired selection for an answer. Khan rested his head on Tim's shoulder and looked at divided pieces with a scrunched brow. There were recognizable metal wires, but then there were also some weird things that he had never seen before. You mean magic? Did not think that was one of your specialties, he quipped with a soft smile. I can make anything my specialty, Tim answered in mock offense. I managed to decode centuries' worth of research on the subject. Way too complicated for you to understand, he teased. Khan hummed. Could you dumb it down for your non-master wizard? Tim huffed a laugh and paused for a couple of seconds to gather his thoughts. Do you remember that Magical Girl show Bart watches unironically? The one with the magical elemental crystals? Khan made an affirming hum. Okay, so imagine these crystals I am using as one of those magical crystals. The one I am using here being a lightning crystal. On its own, it is fairly weak, but with the power of about 12 different types of science and a special metal capable of withstanding ridiculous amounts of power, I can contain it, control it, amplify it, and make it strong enough to stun or kill any creature on this planet. Tim paused. In theory. Khan lifted a brow and turned his head on Tim's shoulder towards his face. So you made a magical girl taser capable of killing God, Khan summarized. Tim lifted his underlip slightly in thought. I mean, that is one way to put it, yeah. Both of Khan's brows lifted now, perhaps a small reaction in the face of what they were talking about, but after years of knowing Tim, Khan had gotten himself used to the chaos that came with him. Geez, giving you so much free time might be a mistake. And you are giving this to our new secretary? Yep. I also made a flamethrower with the largest red crystal I could find. That one is not ready for testing, though. Too unstable for now. Khan made a hum that sounded more like a slightly scared laugh. When Tim was done putting all the pieces together, the finished product looked fairly cool, like a taser with a cyberpunk look and a glowing power source in the middle. Tim turned it up on its highest setting and laughed excitedly when the thing made a loud, crackling noise. And the sparks from it lit up the room. "So that thing works on superheroes?" Con questioned. "I hope so, or else I'm gonna have to redesign the whole thing." Tim groaned tiredly. Con took off the leather jacket he had been wearing and put it on the chair. "Let's test it then," he exclaimed with a smile. "What?" Tim asked, caught off guard. "Let's test it. I'm a soup, pretty much the perfect person to test this thing on." Tim seemed apprehensive. "It could hurt a lot. Are you sure you want to do this?" "Yeah, I want to see how scared I should be of your magical girl tech," he mocked. This seemed to lessen Tim's apprehension, if only a little. Tim turned the taser's electrical output from 10 down to 1. "Really? Not even a 2? Let's see how you handle a 1 first, shall we, big boy?" Tim grinned as he put his goggles back on. Con braced himself. Honestly, Con did not know what to expect. He was no stranger to pain, but then again, he had not thought this would hurt so bad, if at all. He was wrong. He was very fucking wrong. As the crackling light came into contact with his left arm, he felt a nerve-biting pain making its way through every part of his left side as he screamed out. The taser had not been in contact with him for more than a second, but when it pulled away, Con felt his legs give under him. Tim caught him and placed him carefully in the lap chair. "Why did I volunteer for this?" he asked both himself and Tim with the most humorous smile he could muster. "Not sure, but if it makes you feel better, this was very useful," Tim soothed as he held Con's left hand in his and his other hand on Con's shoulder to keep him upright in the chair. "It does make me feel better. Thank you." Tim laughed softly. "There is one thing I need to test. Could you try and use your heat vision on the empty beaker over there?" Tim pointed at the far end of the desk. Con shrugged. "Sure, why not?" He focused on the beaker, but after focusing on it intensely for 10 seconds, nothing happened. Con's brow furrowed as he looked towards Tim. "Do not worry, I did not zap your powers out of you. It is only a temporary thing," he assured. "But it works!" Tim exclaimed excitedly as he hugged Connor on the chair. Con made something between a sigh and a genuine laugh. "God, I am glad you're on our team." Tim looked away from the now gift-wrapped taser with a soft smile and continued scanning lazily in search of something to cure his boredom. He looked over the different pens and office equipment in the room until his eyes landed on a familiar jar. He huffed a laugh as he read the text on it again. Then the smile on his face slowly morphed into thoughtfulness, then an epiphany. Memories of reading reports about Raish's creepy cloning projects involving Damien flashed through his mind. I own multiple cloning labs, Tim realized then. An idea changed into a plan. Well, that is certainly something to do. With his 2 oldest sons gone and his youngest in the manor finishing his homework, Bruce sighed as he opened the file containing the contact list of Tim's old phone. He could not see where the last phone call had been made from, or he could, but it just said from the Philippines, which was less than improbable. It did not even have an IP address. What Bruce could see was the number Tim had called, a number Bruce recognized as soon as he had laid eyes on it. And oh, if it did not do anything but leave more questions than answers. Bruce took out his phone. He did not have to type the number in. He could simply go to his contact list. The phone dialed for a couple of seconds. "Hello, Bruce," a sly voice answered. "Hello, Selena." "How are you, darling? I heard Alfred has you on forced rest." She sounded both sincere and teasing. "Better," he said apathetically. "I have questions I want you to answer." How surprising." She sighed sarcastically with no actual offense. "How can I be of service to you this time, Batman?" "A call was made to you quite some time ago by one of my children when I was presumed dead. Tim." Tim's Robin had rarely interacted with Catwoman, so Bruce clarified to make sure Selena knew who he meant. Selena hummed thoughtfully. "I seem to recall a conversation, yes." "Why did he call you?" There was a pause over the phone before Selena's smooth voice came through again. "Is this not an answer you could achieve by asking the boy yourself?" "I am asking you." Selena chuckled.
Well, someone's not feeling chatty today. Not that you ever are.
Selena, he pushed. She sighed.
Oh, fine. He called asking for advice.
Advice?
Mm-hmm.
What kind of advice?
Oh, you know, the kind that you would ask a cat burglar. How to get into places you're not supposed to without causing alarm. How to use eyeliner. Things like that.
He asked you for advice on how to break into valuable buildings without triggering alarms, Bruce summarized. Did you say eyeliner?
Yes, quite hard to do with only little prior training.
Bruce had used eyeliner before to fill out the circles around his eyes in earlier versions of the bat suit. But if it was something Tim needed advice from a woman on, it was likely not the same reasons they had for using eyeliner. It would probably be good to ask Tim about it later. Why did he call you for advice?
I doubt you will find a better person to ask those things.
No, I mean, why did he call you of all people? Why did Tim feel like you would help him, and why did you?
You don't know?
Selena hummed thoughtfully.
Well, I suppose it is not all too surprising, but as a detective and a father, I thought you would know.
Bruce's brows creased. What?
You are such a genius, Bruce, but sometimes you forget that bats can be blind.
There was a soft chuckle over the line.
I suppose it is also harder to see when someone has put a veil over your eyes.
Who? He heard her tisk.
You should know.
What do you mean, Selena?
Bye-bye, Bruce.
Selena! The line cut out. After a short flight, he drove carefully through the city on his bike. The container was secure, but he did not want to take any chances with this. As his bike came to a stop in front of the clinic, he parked it on the side of the small building out of sight. He walked up to the door and knocked. It did not take long for the door to open. Dr. Tompkins was used to answering in a hurry in case of emergency, after all. You are not dead. I thought you'd be. She spoke monotone. Wrong, Robin. Leslie looked less than impressed. I am not so old that I could not tell the difference between all of you yet, Tim. Although your father is making it more difficult with all the damn children he adopts. Tim snickered. Leslie moved to the side and let him inside. I could never forget you. You are the one who added pants to that common cold collector of a suit, and the one out of all of you who had to visit me the least. Leslie muttered to herself about the girl Robin who broke 3 bones in a week. Yep, that was me, Tim confirmed. I am here to ask a favor. Figured as much. What is it this time? Something broken? Something out of place? Something in places it doesn't belong? She listed off, no doubt from experiences she had already had with Robins before. Well, it might be a bit different this time. Leslie lifted a gray brow. How so? I would hope that any mention of this could be kept off of the records. You don't want me to tell your family. It was not a question. It was a statement. Yes. And why should I agree to this? Because I will owe you one, and my favors have gone up quite a bit in value lately. Is that so? Leslie seemed unimpressed. I am a businessman, you know. Leslie sighed. All right then, but only because you are my favorite. Ha! Tim knew it. Suck a dick, Jason, Steph, and Damien. What do you need help with, kid? She asked. All right. Tim smacked the organ container onto the metal desk with a bit too much excitement on his face. Put this inside me. Tamara Fox sat at her reception desk typing something into the computer. She did not even bother looking at them as they arrived at the WE reception. She only made an annoyed groan just loud enough for Dick and Jason to hear. Hey, we're here too. Without looking away from her screen, Tam lifted her hand, interrupting Jason before she went back to typing again. Jason's brow twitched. She kept on typing, paused for a second, then she typed again. The two stood there completely ignored. She pressed period, then entered. Tam sighed. Then she turned to look at the two, not affected one bit by Jason's annoyance. Mr. Fox is in a meeting for the next hour. And even with that, I know for a fact that none of you have appointments to talk to him anyway. She spoke matter-of-factly with the least welcoming smile Dick has ever seen on anyone's face before. Won't matter. We ain't here to talk to your pops. We are here to talk to you, Jason said as he leaned his elbows on her desk. Tam made a displeased hum. You have an appointment to talk to me, then? You're a secretary. I don't need a fucking appointment. Are you implying that my time as a human being is worth less than my father's because I am a secretary? She retorted. I know you are jobless and a general bum to society, but in a scenario, imagine how you would react if two muscly idiots came into your workplace without calling first and demanded to talk to you. I don't think you would respond positively either. Nick stood to the side, keeping quiet. He was not getting involved in this. Jason smiled with a tightened jaw. As much as I appreciate people with a spark like you, I ain't in the mood to cut around corners right now. Jason leaned in closer, looming over Tam in height. So how about you answer our fucking questions and stop pissing off the guy who shoots, kills, and tortures people for a living? Tam crossed her arms and lifted an unimpressed brow. You know, for a threat to actually work, there has to be some real backbone to it, right? No use threatening to shoot someone if you don't have a gun. Get what I'm trying to say here? I'll have a gun. Oh, I bet you do. What you do not have, however, is legal rights to attack me, since this is not your property. I get it, as a crime edgelord, you would not bother thinking of silly things like the law, but right now, you and your brother are civilians, and if you attack me in this security camera-filled reception, you would both go to jail, which I know you don't want. Or at least, don't want your brother to. Hence, no actual threat. The look on Tam's face changed from casually annoyed to something threatening. Me, on the other hand, this is my workplace. I have the right to be here, and you just tried to threaten me. She had a vindictive gleam in her eyes as she pressed the button on the weapon hidden under her desk, making a crackling sound through the room. So, with the law as on my commodity, I say bibbidi-bobbidi, get off this property before I electrocute you so hard you will have a lobotomy. Nope. What? Bruce questioned as his sons walked into the cave. Just nope, Dick answered. Beside him stood Jason, eating a chili dog and making an agreeing grunt before going back to his seat on the other side of the cave. It was the seat where he had sat before. Did you not get her to talk? B, we did not even get to ask a question. She is not to be messed with. You were scared off by a civilian, Bruce stated, unimpressed. That civilian is freaking horrifying, B. Bruce looked at his oldest son, unimpressed. Tim's secretary is impressively fucking terrifying, Jason yelled with a grin on his face. What was her name again? See, even Jason agrees. Bruce continued to look unimpressed. Why don't you go talk to her then if you don't believe us? Bruce sighed, done with this. I will. In San Francisco, young Justice returned home to find a note on their kitchen table that read, Went to go get a reverse splenectomy. We'll be back tomorrow. XOXO, Tim. Tamara Fox sat at her reception desk typing something into her computer. She stopped typing and looked up as Bruce Wayne walked in. What can I do for you today, Mr. Wayne? She greeted politely. Bruce put on a polite smile himself. My oldest sons were in here earlier today. I do not know if you noticed them, but I have been informed they were escorted out rather rudely. He kept a calm tone as he spoke. Tam hummed thoughtfully. I did notice them. They came in here, insulted my profession, and threatened me. Not very well on either part, but it was still an insult and a threat. She kept her polite tone, but some of her natural sharpness bled into the words. I would say my actions were more than justified. Would you not agree, Mr. Wayne? Internally, Bruce groaned. Of course, I apologize for my son's actions. The edges of Tam's mouth needed an extra tug to stay upright. Admission made on someone else's behalf is the least genuine type of amends you can make. Tam's smile was sharp, yet well-mannered. Now, what can I help you with, Mr. Wayne? This was Lucius's daughter, all right. I'm here for reports on a trip you made half a year ago. One you made on the account of finding my son. Bruce picked up on the way Tamara's eyes blanked over when she recollected the memory the question brought up. That is a rather personal question, Mr. Wayne, she quipped back as she collected herself in an instant. You traveled under the pretense of official WE business, Miss Fox. Adhering to company policies, you are obligated to tell me. Bruce was right. They both knew it. Tam's expression turned dismayed. I am sorry, but out of respect for your son's wishes, I will not tell you, Mr. Wayne. His son's wishes? This meant Tim had gone out of his way to make sure Bruce and others would not know. From his conversation with Selena, Bruce could conclude Tim had most likely broken the law in one way or another. Was this why? If you do not tell me, I will have to fire you, he informed to make his case clear. Tam seemed calculated before her expression turned neutral. For a threat to be real, Mr. Wayne, you'll have to be willing to follow through with it. Despite being a hero, I am perfectly well versed in making threats, Miss Fox. His voice changing into something deeper as he seemed less like Bruce Wayne by the second. I have more than enough will. Fire me, then. Bruce's brow creased. If you refuse to collaborate and give me enough reason, I will. Tam hummed thoughtfully. Well, I'm not willing to break Mr. Drake's trust, so I am afraid you do have a reason. Her gaze was serious as she placed her hands flat on the office desk and stood up from her chair. Fire me, then. It was rare Bruce found himself taken aback. This did not mean he would back down. If he took his threat back, she would not take him seriously and refrain from giving Bruce the answers he wanted. If he fired her, he could take it back in exchange for information. You are fired, he declared as he returned her gaze with no falter. Neither did she. After only a couple of seconds of returning his gaze, like a chameleon changing its colors, Tamara Fox suddenly went from an intense stare to a genuinely excited smile as she turned around and grabbed her jacket from its hanger. Well, it has been a pleasure working here, and thank you for giving me a reason to go home early today. She cheered as she walked around her desk and towards the hallway. Bruce's eyes widened as they followed her. On her way out, Tam stopped as if remembering to say something. Oh, and I do not know if you know this since you have not been CEO for a year, but we have severing packages now. One that I will be using on a vacation before I start my new job. So thank you for that. Bye-bye. And then she was gone. Bruce stood still for a while, even after she had left. She had been baiting him. He had just been tricked. Bruce Wayne, Batman, had been tricked by a secretary. Where the hell did Tim find these friends? Tam is amazing. Tam, we love Tam. Tam is great. She's a vibe. Okay. Thank you for listening, and bye.